First order of business is for everyone to please stand for the recitation of the Pledge of Allegiance. So please repeat after me. Pledge of Allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. All right. Okay. Do we have a motion to approve the consent agenda? Looks like we have the agenda from, well, let's start with the approval of the minutes from the last meeting of August 11th, 2025. Do I have a motion to approve those?
So moved.
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. And then the motion to approve today's agenda. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Next order of business is the finance report.
Thank you. In your packet, you will find first the profit and loss. We've been tooling around a little bit in QuickBooks, trying to make it a little easier to get a breakdown of everything in there. So right now you can see, at least on the top portion of the first page, that the ARPA funding itself is broken down into its own category for revenue at a little over 1.3 million. And then the LHRD revenue below that, we had drawdowns of over 530,000. And then on the last page, it's showing we are operating currently at a loss of $29,260.80, and we are just working on catching up for requisitions. And then you have the balance sheet after that, the check detail list that has the descriptions in there for all of the checks that were dispersed. And then I have a budget versus actuals through September.
Do we have any questions from the board?
I have, just want to maybe, this might result in a follow-up. I see that we have $5.9 million in cash, and just wondering how that's invested in terms of short-term investments, in terms of if we have a strategy to do a laddered CD, or how we're maximizing those resources.
None of it is currently financed in any matter other than sitting in interest-bearing savings accounts. I know we could invest it short-term in some CDs. Mm-hmm. However, we would only be able to invest up to $250,000 per financial institution. So if the board would like to have us explore that option, we would have to diversify our banking across the board if we wanted to invest it.
Is that, I guess, is that balance typical, or is it going to be, I guess, do we have a lot of expenditures that are upcoming where it wouldn't necessarily warrant doing something of that nature?
So that is mostly the ARPA funding that we have, that we were given before all of the expenditures have been made.
Right.
And then we have to have those all allocated by the end of 2026 or 2025 and spent by the end of 2026.
Okay.
So we do need to have some liquidity in there.
Mm-hmm.
Based on finishing up like the East Bayfront Greenway Trail, and I know ARPA admin gets drawn down for admin purposes, and
Yeah, and we would, so without looking at it, 1.8 in the loan program is really about all I can speak to as far as unrestricted, given it was revenue replacement from the city of Erie. We would have to be very cautious with the ARPA funds as far as what has been revenue replaced by the city of Erie and what was part of the original allocation that's still American Rescue Plan funding. So we can certainly dig into that and give the board a definite number on as far as what could be there to invest. Essentially, the 1.8 in the loan program is sitting there as we work to see how we want to utilize that in the loan program. So I guess that would be a matter of seeing how that goes. We've been kind of working through, especially that $800,000 portion of it that's for home buyer assistance, the down payment assistance loans, and trying to match that up with some other funding streams. The one that we had leveraged it against wasn't awarded as much as we had hoped out of the fair allocation, so we're hoping to partner that and have that available for some other things coming up here, hopefully early next year. So, but I don't have a lot of information to share with you on that right now.
So, Mr. Chair, if you'd like, as treasurer, I'd be happy to follow up with April and see what kind of strategies we can come up with.
No, I think that makes sense. And then also, I know that we had previously discussed, I know that there's been a lot of flux, I guess, with respect to the financial reporting, especially, and we'll get into, I guess, the software, the management system later on in the meeting. But I know that we had talked previously about, like, I guess, kind of revamping some of these statements and accounts so that we could see kind of, what happened, like, last year. And kind of have that information readily available just to kind of see where we're at and where we're tracking. And I know that obviously with ARPA funding and, that's kind of a moment in time. That's not necessarily something that we're going to be seeing consistently in the future. Do we have any sense now that we're going, I guess, depending on where our conversation in the meeting goes in terms of that financial management software reporting system, if we end up sticking with QuickBooks, are we going to be able to do some type of, I guess, reorganization of those statements so that we can see kind of what, from year to year, how things are tracking?
I say, really, I believe yes. I think it's a matter of knowing what the board wants to see. We have, and like we talked at that meeting about the financial management software, every grant is different. Every funding source has a different reporting mechanism to it, and that's kind of where, when we looked at that, and we talked through really how QuickBooks will work for us, how we are, because everything else is essentially, April and Corey track it all, and April keeps a very good track as far as every different reporting mechanism, and essentially a lot of it is Excel spreadsheets, but we can put that together in a format, and we can hopefully manipulate it into a software, if it's not QuickBooks, or just into a spreadsheet, so you can see that over the time, So certainly, on the housing rehab side of it, on the LHRD, we can go back historically almost 20 years and show how much we've spent every year as far as that goes, because every grant fund has a different tracking system with it. Yeah, I'm just, something to kind of see, next to each other, like looking at where we are currently versus where we were, last year, for instance, around the same time. So maybe that's another thing that Chuck and we can get together on and talk about, and maybe even Ethan too, just to see, what makes sense in terms of what we want to see on those statements, just moving forward, so we can give some direction to everyone on that. And I know that these last few months have been somewhat of an anomaly, because you guys have been kind of running all over the place, doing multiple accountings and reconciliations. So I'm not saying that it's an issue. It's just something that we need to give you some direction on.
Yeah. Okay, good. Yeah, we'll have you follow up.
Okay. So any other questions in terms of the financial reports?
For the potential investment into further interest-bearing assets, are there any policies that would prohibit like investment into a single or one, maybe two money market accounts that are currently bearing interest in, say, 4-ish%?
I'm not aware, but we can look into that.
Okay, just from I understand and can absolutely appreciate the need to want it to be as safe as possible, and I think that's FDIC insured, but just thinking about the amount of money and the amount that you're capped at with CDs.
Yeah, it's something we can certainly look into and gather all of the details based upon what's eligible, what's available, and what's possible.
Okay.
And who's our bank that we work with?
Erie Bank.
Erie Bank. So that team should be able to come back with some solutions.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect.
Do I have a motion to approve the finance report pending audit?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. And I apologize, I think I went out of order. Is there any citizens that wish to be heard? All right. Next is the executive director's report, actually the solicitor's report. Gene?
Good afternoon, Board. Gene Summer, great to be here and join you on another sunny Monday afternoon. You have my report in front of you. I'll go through it in summary fashion. 314 Walnut Street, and I want to thank Aaron and his group again for keeping us posted throughout. This is a successful rehabilitation. It's going to be completed within the next 30 days. As a result of that successful rehabilitation process, all the documentation will be filed to confirm that that we have relinquished all right, title, and interest back, and they're off and running. 933 East 5th Street, that was a declaration of taking, excuse me, and this is why I'm continuing to work with Aaron and his group. This was an interesting proposition. This was a tax sale, taken at tax sale. The gentleman had died during the tax sale process, so he was served, but then he had passed away. His heirs had not been served. So as part of the process that we involved is we noted that there was an estate but served all the heirs. So now we've accomplished that. So we've kind of tidied that up on the second go-round. And what we're doing is making sure that we're taking care of any inheritance tax that may be owed before it's put out on market. So I'm going to work with Aaron and his team to determine, okay, is this something that's going to be demolished? Is it going to be rehabbed? How do we make sure that we are recouping those added expenses that we might not have anticipated when we first got in the ballgame? So and you'll see that is on the properties to be sold. So we have been working on that process to make sure that as we're moving through, that if a decision is made of it changing from demolition to maybe this is a rehab candidate, that we work together so that all of the expenses that is being incurred is being recouped if it is sold and if it's being rehabbed. So I want to thank Aaron and his group for helping me work through that process, and we're still making sure that that all takes place. 324 East 22nd Street, you are updated with regard to that. Wanted to let you know that appeal was filed, but the appeal was filed for a reconsideration only. Just saying, hey, Judge, will you look at this again? Okay, and what I did is I responded, and it has been, my response has been filed, basically saying, hey, Judge, you were right. That was the right measure of damages for you to analyze this case so that you should affirm your decision and your valuation in our favor. So that has been, my response to that appeal has been filed, and it is in the judge's hands now. I anticipate a very short order just saying the decision is affirmed. And then we'll see if it goes anywhere from there. And I'll just let it, a public record, I'll just let it sit at that point right now. Again, I wanted to bring you up to speed again with the subdivision of the parcels on 9th and Cherry Street. We have the plans done. The adjoining property owners have paid their share. We have reached out to the appropriate parties here at City Hall, and Jack Welsh has indicated that there's no zoning-related compliance issues with the proposed replot and subdivision, and he's saying, hey, in fact, the resulting lots are larger than what are existing on those properties, so therefore there's no infringement on existing setbacks. So we're growing the properties and the buildings that are already there. So what I'm gonna do is work with Jackie Spry to expedite this process through within the next 30 to 60 days. We're jumping the gun a little bit. We have the deeds ready, so as soon as the subdivision approval has gone through the process, we're ready to convey it to these people. And it'll be another feather in our collective cap. Again, number 5, like what I spoke to before, there are a number of issues that I'm working through with Aaron's group to make sure that when we're selling these properties, that we're making an utmost effort to recoup all of our expenses, if possible, in getting the properties to a point where they can be sold. So we're working through that. And I'll let you know, kind of the days of offering an adjoining lot for $500, those days are going to be kind of few and far between going forward, because it's an enormous amount of work. And I'm of the opinion that, that we should be made whole to get it to that point. So that's what I'm working toward. We'll see how that works out. We'll keep you posted.
Do you have a general sense of the costs involved typically? And I mean, because it's probably pretty much the same process, right? You're going through all the legal fees, the filing fees, et cetera.
It is, and what it's gonna get close from beginning to end, pretty close to about $2,000.
Mm-hmm.
What I was able to confirm, again, with one of the benefits of having, having the attorney who runs the Recorder of Deeds office in our office, he's able to clarify a lot of things, and he's confirmed, hey, look, if you do it this way, we can make sure that we get transfer taxes.
Right.
You're exempt from transfer taxes.
Mm-hmm.
So we're working through that process, and not that that's a big ticket, because a lot of times the transfer is only $500 or $2,500, but wherever we can save that
Right.
expense, I want to make sure that we've covered it.
Yeah, no, that makes sense.
And get it back so that you aren't, I don't want you to be selling land or a rehabilitation process at a loss. I understand you not necessarily want to make a whole lot of money, but at least efforts should be made to be whole.
Right.
So that's what I'm doing, and I appreciate Aaron and Kyle and the entire office to work with us, because there's a lot of bounce back and forth. What about this?
Mm-hmm.
But wait a second, hold on, let's make sure we've covered this. So it's been a nice rapport. I want to make sure that we've covered all our bases.
With those signed agreements in number 5, are those all for vacant parcels going to adjoining landowners, or is there
And
any development agreements?
I'm looking at Aaron for confirmation. I think they are.
Yeah,
I think they are.
okay. Any further questions from the board?
I'll keep you posted. I'll certainly keep you posted on item number 3 as well.
Yeah, please do. All right. Report.
My turn? All right. All right. So I provided to the board kind of the breakdown since our last board meeting. August was really quiet. There wasn't a lot of notable things going on. A lot of things really started to hit in September. Gene touched on the update as far as that one property and court date in the middle of September. The East Bayfront Greenway Trail, we held the groundbreaking there on September 3rd. Work is underway out there currently. They've done a lot of the tree clearing and a lot of the site work as far as setting grade and stuff. They're getting ready to start with underground utilities currently. So if you get a chance, swing on out there. It's well underway, and so they're hoping to have here before snow flies at least the major infrastructure in, and hopefully some pavers and plantings will probably wait until springtime. The end of September, we kind of kicked back up Infinite Erie, held a few meetings, getting us back on track as far as the playbook and moving some projects forward, and also opening it up. So if anyone didn't see any of those news articles or whatever, but the playbook is open, and they're looking for additional projects to add to it, because it was meant to be a living and breathing document, and something that the Erie community and all of the organizations who are part of it continue to utilize as we continue to move Erie forward. So we had that. We also had an Infinite Erie Housing meeting, a collaborative meeting to discuss housing and how we can work together to bring more housing to the city of Erie and improve housing stock to the city of Erie. So it was good to have that group convening again, so look forward to continuing those meetings. Let's see some of the other notable things. On September 26th, City of Erie put on a National Alliance for Preservation Commissions training, which was really good. It was focused on the Historic Review Commission members along with other interested or such parties that are involved in that. It was really just a good overview of how preservation works, and essentially not always historic preservation, but housing preservation. But a big part of it, and a big, when you look at, there's been a lot of things, especially with this building being registered as on the National Register, and just how different years and decades in architecture have different meaning to different people. And so it was a good session and a lot of good information to take out of it. So other than that, early in the Pennsylvania Municipal League Conference represented the Redevelopment Authority in a session with the mayor and other leaders, along with filming a session for the Municipal League on the East Bayfront Greenway Trail and the collaborative efforts out in that area. And then on the staffing side of it, we did hire a new inspector in Nate Hale and Anna Chemsak as our new community relations and outreach managers. So I'm pleased to have them on board as far as the work that they're going to be doing for the authority. Erie Land Bank, we are up to a full complement of board members regarding the Erie Land Bank. So the mayor did make an appointment to fill the seat vacated by Chris Groner in July. So we do have 5 members there, and we'll be moving forward with that. So not much else to report there, other than we're currently looking at the 2025 judicial tax sale and identifying properties for acquisition off of that list, while also waiting to hear from the county land bank on funding acquisition there. So the only other thing I would like to mention is that we have a tremendous group of employees at the Redevelopment Authority who this morning recognized me for Boss's Day. And I didn't want to put it on the table, but so I am pleased to work with such wonderful employees at the Redevelopment Authority, and I couldn't do my job if it wasn't for them, so I appreciate every single one of them. So that's my report.
Great. Mr. Chair, I have a question, if I may. Yep. So Aaron, will Anna oversee the Erie the Neighbor Growth Partnership? Then will she be the staff person assigned to that? Then?
Yeah. So right now there's a lot of uptake as far as
Sure.
everything involved in the authority, and so I'm working with Jackie Spryan, the planning director from City Department of Planning and Neighborhood Resources, and to utilize some of their neighborhood planners who have been going to the meetings and in that as well. And so we're gonna kind of work together on that to keep the ENGP going while Anna gets up to speed. But yeah, that will be a primary task of hers, is to keep the ENGP going, making sure the meetings are going, and that we're continuing to drive that nonprofit forward. So
When is the next meeting for ENGP?
that we're looking to get on the schedule hopefully for November.
And just a quiet reminder to send your thank yous for Erie Gives Out for those of us who gave to the organization.
Excellent, thank you.
Any other questions from the board for Aaron? All right. So moving on to unfinished business and new business, housing rehabilitation report. Holly?
Hello, board. So, I won't break down all the numbers for you since it's already on here, but to date, just for your knowledge, we have completed 70 projects. We did 100 even last year. We're at 70 even right now, and there are plenty on the board that are either already under contract or close to being under contract. So that number should be higher soon. I did just do some more breakdown of how much for each program was completed in 2025. I had already completed this before I did that for Aaron, so I will make sure to have that for you for next month, just so you can see the breakdown of what projects are getting finished where. We do have a new lead contractor since last time we met. So he was one of our existing contractors, but passed the state supervisor exam, so they are a new firm for us. So now we have 6 certified lead abatement contracting firms, which is very exciting for us. I'm trying to see, some of this is, I cut and pasted from what would have been in last month's report. So we did have some more trainings held in September, and a few we've got going in November, particularly to accommodate our new inspector, so that we can get him quickly, hopefully, certified to be a risk assessor and a lead supervisor. I won't talk about the Housing Authority, Aaron, I'll leave that to you.
Can you touch on the neighborhood center?
Yep, that's what I was going to get to, is my biggest report, because this would have been the big thing that was new for last month. So I've been holding office hours at the new UPMC Neighborhood Resource Center down on East Avenue. If you've not stopped by it yet, I strongly encourage you to. It's a really cool space. It's the second such center like it. The first was in Pittsburgh. It was a big success a couple years ago, and Erie was selected to be the second site of it. So we originally were we started with 1 day a week there, and now we're up to 2. So Tuesdays and Wednesdays I've been going there. Now that we have Anna, she's coming with me to shadow a little, and starting in November, I'll do Tuesdays, she'll do Wednesdays, so we have a full office day presence both of those days there. But it's a really neat place. It's got kind of rotating services throughout there, so lots of different community organizations have office hours there on a rotating basis. They do a monthly calendar, so you know who's going to be there when. The Second Harvest Food Bank just opened their market there, which is super cool. It's a very dignified new way for folks who need those services to get their food, rather than just going and being handed a bag or a box. They actually can kind of shop grocery store style, and so it's a really neat thing that they're doing there. So yeah, I've hosted some intakes there, some contract closings there. Feedback's been really positive from clients and contractors alike. So yeah, and well, last month we were there for their open house for the RAM clinic, the remote area medical clinic, and they will be having another open house coming up here in a few weeks that will be part of as well. We also had another mobile blood lead screening event with the health department last month, the annual Shriners Safety event. And Anna and I are starting to work on a couple of things for National Lead Poisoning Prevention Week, which is the 19th to the 25th. Normally that's a more national, they give us a toolkit and a theme and all that sort of thing, but with the federal government shutdown, it doesn't look like there's going to be a theme this year, so we're just going to, use it just as promotional advertising for our program, and, the dangers of lead, the same things we talk about all the time, but just a little more emphasis. And last thing for me, I and the health department will be with the Erie County Housing Authority to table an upcoming landlord engagement at the St. Martin Center the last week of the month. So maybe get some new landlords wanting to participate in our programs. I think that's all my stuff.
To that end, with landlords, do you do anything with the Northwest Pennsylvania Apartment Association?
Is that,
Any engagement there?
that's the apartment association we presented to before. Yeah, Aaron and I presented to them. God,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah, pretty much yearly, we go to one of their annual meetings and
Okay.
present on the lead hazard control program.
And any traction from those, or not really?
It's hit or miss.
Yeah.
Yeah. I got a couple.
We get a
actually
couple
last
out of
time.
it, but
Okay.
yeah.
But I did have one just like a month ago called and said they heard us talk at the thing 2 years ago. So
Okay.
every once in a while, but I think I'm certainly always open to go do another one of those and talk to them about putting something in. I know they do a newsletter, putting something in there, but I think it's a prime time since that we're doing the lower landlord buy-in.
Right.
It used to be 20%, now it's only 10% contribution. So it's really a kind of unique opportunity for them to get in,
Yeah, and I want to say that I think they have their annual meetings, like, it's got to be like November, December, I want to say. So,
Yeah.
and I think
Yeah.
that's probably where they get most attendance, so it might be worthwhile to
Yeah.
get a plug in there. One question that I did have is looking at the rehab report on the first page. There was one application, and this is under the PA ARPA lead, that was denied due to project size exceeding budget. Like
Correct.
I guess I just want to understand, like, what's going
Sure.
on?
So They were moved over for eligibility for that program because they were over income for the regular LHRD program through HUD.
Okay.
We get a little bit of flexibility with this PA money. As long as they're under 100% AMI, we can get them through. So they did qualify that way. However, upon the inspectors going out and doing the inspection, it was going to exceed $50,000, which is the maximum cap available through that funding.
Okay.
I tried really hard to get the state to put it through, but they said 50 is the hard level for them. We can go up higher with the HUD program, but they just didn't
So
qualify.
what happens, like that home just doesn't get,
Yeah. And it stinks because, they know there's a lot of lead there, but it was too big of a job to get approved.
Yeah, we have to address every lead-based paint hazard, or we can't address anything at all.
right,
So it's a very yes and no. It's-
yeah,
And this was going to be about a $75,000 job, which we could do under the HUD program if they income qualified, but 50 is the hard for max for the state.
okay, got it. All right, yeah, I just saw that and I was curious, so,
Yeah, that's the worst kind of denial to send,
yeah.
specifically for lead, yeah.
Any questions from the board? Okay, thank you.
Thank you, guys.
All right, financial management system.
All right, so I did provide the board a brief overview of our discussion regarding the financial management software. And so essentially, I'll kind of give a brief high-level overview of it. So, we had probably 2.5 years ago reached and looked for financial management software. At the same time, we looked for a financial consultant to come in and help April kind of clean up inherited years of just revolving door as far as financial directors. So we had identified Blackbaud, Financial Edge, NXT, and at the same time identified Baker Tilly to come in on the financial side and consult on our operations. So with that, we started kind of simultaneously implementing Blackbaud while Baker Tilly was coming on board. In the midst of all that and Baker Tilly coming in, we kind of stalled on Blackbaud while Baker Tilly kind of did their thing and worked through that. The work by Baker Tilly is extremely instrumental in cleaning up the financial management and processes within the Redevelopment Authority and allowing April to help organize our assets, our properties, along with some of the other things as far as how things could be done and how, helping her kind of put things the way they could be in QuickBooks. And so essentially it came to the point where about 8 months ago, we were still working, trying to get Blackbaud implemented because of a failure by their third-party implementation team to get Blackbaud up and running, to the point where QuickBooks was operating smoothly, and I think everything was working the way it could be and should be at that time. And so then we continued to move forward with Blackbaud, and as that implementation came closer to being complete, a lot more headaches arose with that, and April can touch on those. But essentially the recommendation is to continue to utilize QuickBooks. It's working. It meets our needs financially, given, like I addressed earlier in the board meeting, that majority of our funding sources all have different reporting requirements and different spreadsheets that we are required to report on. And so we double enter almost everything as that goes. And so QuickBooks fulfills the need. Blackbaud, there's its shortcomings as far as some of the operations of it, I guess, for lack of further definition there. So it is my recommendation, I know it's April's recommendation, that we continue with QuickBooks and continue to work toward utilizing that to fulfill the needs of the Redevelopment Authority and forgo Blackbaud implementation at this time.
So I wasn't at that meeting, but I guess my question would be, what was the original gap that you guys were hoping that Blackbaud would fill back when you selected that for implementation? And is that no longer a gap, or?
I will say, I think, no, there is no longer a gap. I think there was some, it's been so long since Baker Tilly's been in the office. There was just things that April inherited from prior directors that weren't being done or calculated and registered properly in QuickBooks. So there was just some mechanisms and processes that could have been done differently, and so along with Baker Tilly being able to help clarify a lot of that, Blackbaud isn't needed. So essentially, when we were going into Blackbaud, we were looking at, we could have every single grant lined up in there, and essentially that wasn't needed. There was no need for double entry, I think was the biggest, right?
We were, well, hoping to be able to get, I guess, a bunch of different fancy automated reports that were promised, but it's not so easy. You basically had to be, that's what I'm looking for, like a computer programmer, and do your own like SQL from nothing to create these reports to then be able to just change the dates and reproduce them later on as time goes on. But there's not much that's automated with that system, and they still don't have the accounts receivable module up and running, which is insane to me. But we're, already started paying for our third year of this software system that is supposed to be fully functional, and it is not.
And I'm going to jump in and say, I think that the effort was to solve just organizational management, evolution using software without doing the evolution, organizational management evolution workflow first. It was my kind of how I summarize it then. I don't know, Ethan, if you had a...
Yeah, no, I mean, to me, it seemed like it was throwing a lot of money at something that was causing more frustrations than QuickBooks, which staff already knew how to use. It was significantly cleaned up compared to where we were 2 years ago. And especially in the spirit of, yes, if perfectly implemented and perfectly clean, Blackbaud NXT probably is the better option. But the thing is, who knows how much more time and money and effort we'd have to do to get there. Whereas QuickBooks, why have perfect be the enemy of good, especially when it leads to staff satisfaction. April was it was double entering things and had been for over a year. So didn't seem worth it to keep throwing good money at potentially that.
And a recommendation I'd like to add, and it's still out there, if we think it's a good idea, is to maybe engage an accounting firm. My organization does that as well. We have a auditing firm. We'll use a different CPA firm to review our work each month. So it validates my staff's work each month. It also serves as a training tool for my staff members to have real-time CPAs at their fingertips every month to work through entries or something unique. So I would offer that. And we spend maybe under $1,000 a month for that service, and it's well worth the money. So I would recommend that we consider that as well.
Do they offer that service? I mean, can it be like quarterly?
Absolutely,
So,
however you want to set it up.
I mean, those are things that we can discuss.
Yeah,
Okay.
some months it's a few dollars, and some months as we get ready for audit, it's a lot more dollars, But it helps. It's like a CFO at your fingertips as you need them, and it provides the validation to the numbers so that my board feels super comfortable, and my staff loves it because it takes a lot of pressure off their work then. And it's because we're going to come across complicated one-of-a-time sort of entries. It's good to have this information up front than having to do reversing entries at the time of the audit.
Right, and you can focus on getting money.
Exactly. It's a very proactive. So once you get it through your, add that group as your team, as your financial team, it's a beautiful thing, we think.
Okay.
And I will just add to that, and we do, I think the auditing firm we used last year, as far as the ability to answer questions, has been, hands down, way better than our previous auditing firm, who I know when April had reached out in the past with a question, they would be like, we can't answer that for you. And now every time we ask a question, they respond without even holding back. So, yeah, but I definitely agree. We'll follow up with that and take on that recommendation. So, appreciate that.
So what we're considering then is essentially like a non-renewal of the service with Blackbaud.
Yep.
And the annual fees, associated with that is like, what, $16,280 per year versus anywhere from $3,500 to $4,500 for QuickBooks.
Yeah.
When do we have to give notice, or is it, I mean, I'm assuming it's like some type of automatic renewal. So when do we have to give notice by?
As soon as possible.
Okay, so we still have time in order to do
Yeah.
it for next year, okay.
So
So,
you said I'm sorry.
oh, go ahead.
So you said you're into the third year, so has the third year already been completely paid? So
Yes.
there's no ability to prorate that?
Yeah, we looked into the contract to see if there was anything.
So I guess what we need to do then is, I guess, put forth a motion then. It's kind of a motion for an inaction. But I do think that we actually do need to send out some type of formal notice to Blackbaud then for the non-renewal. So I guess, do we have, or is there any other further questions from the board before throwing a motion? All right. Do I have a motion then to send out notice of non-renewal to Blackbaud in whatever form that we need to in order to notify them that we're no longer engaging with their service?
Correct. And as a Blackbaud customer, I would recommend, different, several services, of notice.
Right.
I would do
Yep.
first-class mail, I would do registered return receipt.
Oh, yeah.
I would do the whole shoot and match.
I think it's going to be a matter of looking at the agreement, covering any notice that we possibly could give under the agreement. So a lot of times the agreement will specify the forms and types of
Correct.
notice.
Exactly.
So we'll make sure to do that.
Thank you.
So there's the motion. Do I have,
Addendum to the motion.
okay, go ahead.
We need to put in that we are not only just discontinuing, but we're fully returning to QuickBooks. I think that.
Oh, okay, yeah, no, I agree with that. Okay. So, do we have so the motion, I guess, with the addendum, do we have
I so
a
moved.
a motion on that? And then do we have a second?
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. All right. And then update with respect to the EDCEC loan modification.
Yeah, so I had some conversations with Tina. They're still not prepared to provide us a response at this time. They're waiting on some answers from the CRIS authority as far as some funding coming from the authority. So once they have some clarification on that, she said she'll get some stuff over to me. She was hoping to have it to me by last Friday, but I have not seen it yet. So my assumption is that they're still kind of in a waiting period for the CRIS authority to answer some of their questions as far as what they can do with the money and how they can restructure their capital stack, so.
Okay.
But they're interested.
They are interested, so.
Yeah, they're certainly interested, they just want to make sure they have everything they need
Okay.
answered,
Well,
so.
that's better than before.
Better
so.
than before, exactly.
All right, well, thank you for that. Next item of business is the intergovernmental agreement with the Housing Authority of the City of Erie for lead testing services. And,
The new production first.
Production.
oh, wait, did I go
Number
past
4.
that? Oh, I did. Sorry, my apologies. New production program modification for our West Bayfront Build CDC. So I know that there was a letter addressed to Aaron that went through and explained exactly what's going on in terms of the requested modification for our West Bayfront. So why don't you, Aaron, if you can, just generally describe what's
Yeah.
going on and
Absolutely.
where you stand with this.
Right, yeah, so back in on March 19th, 2024, the Redevelopment Authority Board appropriated or agreed to enter into a grant agreement with our West Bayfront for 521 West 3rd Street for $120,000. That was a highly distressed property in which our West Bayfront acquired from the Erie Land Bank And it just, through the evaluation and continued work on trying to develop that property, they determined the best outcome for that property was demolition. However, they did acquire an additional property from the Erie Land Bank at 702 Raspberry, and we worked together on that project for some time and evaluated it numerous occasions and trying to help fulfill that project. So Gretchen had reached out in regards to what they could do with the allocation of $120,000 under the new production program. And so we kind of walked through it, and she talked about the different projects that they have going at our West Bayfront. And in talking with her, I feel 702 Raspberry kind of fits a couple different things and is a good position for the funding to be used. And so the reason for that, so in the original allocation, 521 West 3rd Street was one unit. 702 Raspberry will provide 2 affordable housing units for our West Bayfront. So we gain one unit out of that. But what we also do is allow them, because of the mixed use of that building being a commercial storefront with 2 residential units, that they're having a hard time filling that capital stack on the commercial unit, because funding that's allocated for residential can only be used in residential. And so they have home funds in the project, they have some other states and Keystone funds in the project, but none of that can be used on the commercial units. So they're having to separate out all of their sources and uses and all of that. But given that our money is American Rescue Plan funds, it's a little bit more flexible for them. And so they can utilize the $120,000, leverage it to the total project cost, but use it to cover that commercial storefront renovation, which is an integral part of that residential structure, providing 2 residential units along with a commercial unit that our West Bayfront can use or lease out to an occupant of the residential unit, or as Gretchen said, that many different uses once it's rehabilitated. But it's a matter of getting it rehabilitated. So their request is to reallocate that funding to 702 Raspberry, keeping it in the our West Bayfront, allowing for the production of 2 affordable housing units and the completion of a commercial unit connected to that.
Any questions from the board?
Yes. Okay, so does the agreement with our West Bayfront need to be modified in order to allow for funds to be used for commercial space?
The entire agreement would be we do currently have an agreement for 521 West 3rd Street.
Right.
So we would have to cancel that agreement, cancel that mortgage, and then issue a new agreement to the property at 702 Raspberry, which would identify what that property entails.
Okay. And then I'm just specifically latching onto this just because it is in this request. So this is specifically, I'm a little bit, just since our funds would now be touching commercial space, I just want to be conscious of how our West Bayfront is targeting the commercial lease to historically marginalized entrepreneurs. The way it's worded is that it sounds like it's only going to be available to historically marginalized entrepreneurs rather than targeted to them. And I still want to make sure we're not getting our money involved in something that could be exposed to litigation.
That's valid. I guess it would come to the motion of the board to say that we would do that if the agreement says that it will be, preference would be given to, but not targeted toward or however.
I think targeted as opposed to, if this were a residential lease, it would be a clear fair housing concern that they're only showing it to a black tenant versus a white tenant. So I just want to make sure, or at least get clarification, how they're going to be marketing this as opposed to, only showing certain types of entrepreneurs. Because I agree with our West Bayfront's mission to lease the space to historically marginalized entrepreneurs, and I agree that they've faced barriers. But again, our fund, we'd have a mortgage attached to this. Our funds would be applied to commercial space. So I just want to make sure there's nothing messy that it's going to be tied into.
Okay.
Any other questions from the board? Okay. So, I guess the motion on the floor would be to, I guess, approve the reallocation of grant funds to, from 521 West 3rd Street to 702 Raspberry. And then it would be subject to, I guess, our review and approval of any, I guess, marketing restrictions, and
Clarification on
or,
how the commercial space will be marketed.
okay, yeah, I guess, subject to our approval of, you know, how that commercial space will be, how that commercial space will be marketed. So does that, all right. So that's the motion on the floor. Do we have someone to support that motion?
So moved.
All right, do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none?
You have I need to abstain?
Oh.
I'm on
You
the
do.
board for Raspberry Funds.
Okay, all right, so,
You knew that, that
let
was
the
just a
record
test.
reflect that Chuck did in fact abstain, and,
And
you'll
I
have to
recuse
fill out-
myself of any conversation, I didn't hear anything.
Yeah, then you'll have to fill out a board member abstention form, that's included. So, that motion carried, thank you for that, and thank you for the context.
Yeah. Want me to go over the build one,
What's that?
the build CDC?
Yeah, why don't we do that, yeah,
Okay.
go through the build CDC.
So at the same board meeting back in March of 2024, the board designated $156,031 to build CDC for the acquisition of 3 parcels within their footprint on the East Avenue corridor area. So I provided a letter that I received from Laura this morning regarding, so they ended up purchasing with that funding 2 properties, one at 1032 East Avenue and one at 833 East Avenue. Both properties, 1032 East Avenue is 3 2-bedroom units and 1 commercial unit on the lower floor. East Avenue was 1 2-bedroom unit on the upper and a commercial unit on the lower floor. Their request is that instead of searching out and acquiring an additional 3rd property as they had identified in their original proposal, given the severe deterioration of 1032 East Avenue, their request is to utilize the funding to rehabilitate the residential units at 1032 East Avenue, like I said, as opposed to the acquisition of additional property. Did you include the supplemental stuff, Cynthia? There was a breakdown of the funding. Essentially, they provided a whole breakdown of the construction costs of 1032 East Avenue. It was a substantial amount, all funded by Build CDC was picking up every penny of that. So they would just like to utilize that $75,031 toward the capital stack on 1032 East Avenue's rehabilitation. In conversations with her, I'm fairly certain they're probably gonna, they're not certain yet, but they're talking about eliminating the commercial unit and adding an additional residential unit to 1032 East Avenue. But we did have a conversation that it would be utilized toward the residential units, given that there was a substantial rehabilitation of that. I can pull it up real quick and break that down. Well, it's not going to let me pull it up, apparently. So I can't get it on my phone.
Okay.
I apologize. But like total projects costs are estimated in the range of $650,000, and the attachment did justify all of the costs for both those units. in that. I was in 833 East Avenue, and I can confirm that, and years ago, I was in 1032 East Avenue when it was occupied for the evaluation of rehabilitation. It needed a lot of work back then, so.
And Aaron, can you remind me, I'm sorry, this old man forgets these things. Are they a 501c3 organization? Are they separately incorporated as a 501c3?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Looks like we're trying to be kicked out.
Yeah, he doesn't understand public meetings, I guess.
Yeah, I pulled up 1032 on Google Maps. Didn't look great for when Street View was taken.
It's not, and her accounts of the activity in that building 2 years ago is correct. So it's better to be in their hands and being rehabilitated than the previous uses, so.
Well, and East Avenue is a very high-profile, street, so obviously the location would support attention.
Any other questions from the board? All right, so again, this is just to, I guess, allocate those funds, the remaining funds, the $75,000 that haven't been spent toward the renovation of 1032 East Avenue. Do we have a motion?
Hold on. Yeah, I guess if we could get the attachment that Build CDC included, that would be helpful, but pending that, so moved.
All right, so subject to the receipt of that attachment to the letter dated October 13th, 2025 from Build CDC. So that's the addendum to
Yes.
the motion. All right, do we have a second?
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. All right, next order of business, intergovernmental agreement with the Housing Authority of the City of Erie for lead testing services. And just so you know, I have a conflict with this. My law firm represents Housing Authority of the City of Erie, so I'll abstain from voting. But Aaron, why don't you?
Yeah, so in 2018, when the Housing Authority identified a EBL child in a unit in Harbor Homes, we entered into an intergovernmental agreement for lead testing at that time. Since then, we've had an excellent partnership in helping and assist them with testing in many units across the Harbor Homes complex and across their portfolio in general. But as with time, those agreements age out, the exhibit costs and everything were kind of dated, but we kind of continued to go with it since testing had been, off and on since then. But with the identification of some additional testing needs, Dusty and I decided it was probably best to update the agreement, revise some terms of the agreement as far as the costs go, and kind of clean it up a little bit from the 2018 fee schedule and put it in front of our boards again so that we can have the agreement, our fee schedule solidified with both boards adopting it and move forward with testing at their complex at the John Horan Apartments, so.
And just to confirm, the term of this agreement is perpetual, the rates are established, are perpetual, but each party has the right to terminate on 60 days prior written notice?
Yes.
Okay. Any questions from the board?
And on the question of the rates, are these market rates, or is this negotiated because they're a sister organization, or?
They are favorable as a sister partner organization, so.
Not knowing what the market is, I just.
Any other questions? Do we have a motion?
So moved.
All right. And that motion would be to approve the intergovernmental agreement. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Again, I'm abstaining. Any opposed?
And on the abstention, as Jeremy pointed out, we have a new abstention form, so that if you abstain, please complete it and give it to Cynthia. They are required to be attached to the minutes of the meeting.
Yep. All right, so hearing nothing opposed, that motion carries. Last order of business is the executive coaching and leadership vision and strategic planning.
As much as I want to talk about that and the efforts of
I think we're getting kicked out.
yeah, so I can follow up with the board a little bit more on it. Brian Littlehale is excellent. He coached a fellow colleague of mine who I helped mentor when she took on her role last year, and she raved about him. And I've sat in a lot of his sessions. I know April has as well, and he's excellent at helping just kind of clarify and help lead, leaders and that across the state. And so look at his proposal that he sent, a lot of his letters of recommendation. I really want to push forward with the coaching aspect of it, and certainly have further discussion with the board on the strategic plan side of it. But, certainly the coaching is something that I feel would be an asset to me, an asset to April and to the whole team, as far as just helping with my organizational structure and helping us at the Redevelopment Authority just work through different things and aspects of our operations, so.
And I went to his website and it looked like he does a lot for similar agencies. So.
Yes, he does a lot. He's part of the PARO organization that, Pennsylvania Association of Housing Redevelopment Agencies. He works with a lot of the agencies across the state of Pennsylvania, so.
All right. Yeah, we'll address that, I guess, at next meeting.
Yeah.
Without any further ado, do we have a motion to adjourn before we get kicked out?
I have one more
Okay, good.
to carry over. So we had a bylaws committee, subcommittee formed earlier this summer, and I
Yeah.
don't know if we ever followed up. I probably owe you information, Mr. Chair.
Yeah,
So
that's fine.
Yeah, so let me do that then, and we can put it on the docket then for our November meeting.
Yeah, we can certainly do that. Yeah, if you can get over to me, because what I'll do is I'll go through and revamp the bylaws, probably send them to Gene so that he can review as well. And then we can circulate to the group and vote.
Yeah, I was going through my to-do and then realized I was remiss.
Yeah, no,
I apologize, we'll get it on the docket here, and
well, thank you. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
Moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
all those in favor?
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. We are
Everybody
adjourned.
wants to sit.